Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 18 of Paranormal Lens. Tonight's special episode with a couple extra guests than usual. We'll get to that in a moment. It's going to review our New York trip, both to the Hinsdale House and the Wildwood Sanitarium. Chad, Dave, how you guys doing?
Good, Jamie. How are you?
Living a dream, my friend.
What's going on?
It's Tuesday. We made it this far.
Yes, we did. So.
There's still 3 days to go, but whatever, we'll make it work. So, how was your guys' weekend? Anything fun? It's been a week since I saw you, so.
Normal Boobies weekend. I mean, Boobies Brewery weekend, just to make that clear.
There you go. There you go.
So, it was fun. Actually, we had some interesting stuff there. There was an electrical pole fire or something or other, and it might have sparked some energy in the building. So I had an interesting evening in the Dragonfly room.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
So, yeah. David, did you have anything interesting that night?
I had an interesting evening down in the catacombs.
Wow.
I had an interesting evening down in the catacombs. With Justin and Justin, I can't think of his last name, from the Eclipse group, and Crystal and Kelly from JOTT-NYX, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very much it was interesting. I'll just let it at that.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Some more to come then, I'm sure, once we get a chance to review some evidence and capture what we got.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come up with it here. So,
okay,
awesome. Well,
should we add our special guest or add our guests?
Yeah. So tonight is, we had a field trip weekend, 3 weekends ago now, I guess, up to Western New York, to Olean, New York. Did I say it right, Dave? Am I going to get stabbed? And then also to
Olean. Don't get caught mispronouncing it.
Olean. I couldn't say Olean. It's spelled Olean. Olean, New York, and from the Hinsdale House, and then over to Salamanca, New York, for the Wildwood Sanitarium. I did not make this trip, so everything I'm about to experience here is new to me, and hence I'm going to moderate this conversation. Chad and Dave both made it, plus we're going to bring in Tim Bergen from the JOTT-NYX, New Jersey, and our good friend Chris Mendace, who joined us as well. Hey guys, good evening. Thanks for coming in tonight. I have been to Hinsdale, so I have familiarity with the property, the house, and all the stuff, all the lore of the place. But it's been 2 years since I've been there, so let's start there. And I'm really curious what you guys experienced yourselves being on site for the night. And anybody sleep over by chance? No,
none of us slept
at this time. Okay. So obviously it's a uniquely different experience when you stay longer, but I'm sure you hit the house pretty hard, the property pretty hard. So, guys, and go in whatever turn you wish. There's no order, of course, but what was your takeaway and experiences for the night there?
Well, I'll jump in first. It was a pretty quiet night. We did have some stuff happen, but it wasn't what I expected, because you hear Hinsdale House, and it's like all the stuff happens at the Hinsdale House. And I was upstairs in Mary's room with the tripwire, cat ball, REM pod, voice recorder, and a camera. And I got some tripwire activity, some cat ball activity. Didn't get any flashlight activity. Didn't get REM pod activity. Had a little bit of a conversation with somebody, but I just couldn't get very much detail out of it. So that was sort of my experience for the night. I had one piece of evidence that I can't explain that I'll share a little bit later.
Yeah.
So.
Well, first and foremost, David and I made a new friend while we were there. We had a little buddy named Stumpy that we found.
We did.
A great name.
Gotta tell him a little more about that, David.
Well, we went outside. It was during the first session, and the first session's where Tim ended up having a unique experience, because whatever we were communicating with there during the first session didn't particularly care for Tim. It wanted him out of the room. And at one point, we heard some rustling outside, and somebody said they had seen something outside. So myself and you, Chris, and Jerry went outside to check out what was out there. We walked out the back door, and sitting at the base of the stairs, just as pretty as could be, was this black and white little tuxie cat that we followed up into the stairs, and you and I ended up making friends with her. She ended up being pregnant. I guess she was local to there, so we kind of left her be, but she was just as friendly as could be.
Friendly, hungry, and missing a tail.
But seriously,
She ate a couple of pieces of pizza with me.
She definitely did. But as far as that goes, I mean, the night was sort of uneventful with the exception of a couple of things, and whatever was there didn't seem to like Tim, like you guys mentioned earlier, which is pretty cool. It finally is not me for once, getting kicked out of an investigation. But as far as that goes, I mean, Chad, how was like your investigation up there? I know you went upstairs for a little while. I didn't really get to see what you had.
Like I said earlier, I was communicating with something that, like, the tripwire was going off, the cat ball was going off. I feel like I was talking to whatever had haunted. Some of the questions led to whatever I was talking to had haunted while the Dandy family was there. And it was sort of going back to one of the first couple of families that had been on the property. So they weren't necessarily tied to the house that they were in, but more the property. So, but again, it's hard to draw stuff out with just yes, no questions and sporadic, things with the tripwire. It was interesting. Whatever was in there was, even when I would leave the room, I could go outside and see into the room from outside. The tripwire and the cat ball were going on and off randomly while I was outside. So it was an interesting evening. I didn't venture down to the basement at all. That's, I sort of wish I had done that, but I know David, you and Jerry went down there.
Yeah, we left the thermal down there.
Is that where it ended up?
That's where it is. Actually, it ended up in Niagara Falls, because the next group, I think, said that they got it and they're trying to get it back to us. But we were down there. We were down there for a full session, Jerry and I, trying everything we can. We had a little bit of cat ball activity, but there was nothing thrilling at all about the basement this time. Neither was there last time. I think the most activity that we got was when the 7 of us were together there in the living room at the beginning, when we were all sitting there trying to draw whatever it was out. And Tim and Jerry were sitting back in what used to be a bedroom, because they opened up the living room and extended the living room, and that was one of the girls' bedrooms. And we were all in there, and then we had a piece of equipment that you had, Chris. I don't remember. I don't know if it was a spirit box or it was something in particular that we were using
backwards.
Where when we were going over the
backwards box,
the backwards box.
Yeah.
So we were going over the history of the house and the stuff that I had read up on, etc. And this was about 35 or 40 minutes into the first session, where we had some definite responses coming through the box. And that ended up being the most thrilling part of my night, was hearing my name interrupting me, being screamed through the box. And that pretty much was the amount of activity that I got, everything that was in that living room that night. Tim, what about you? And because I listened to your whole interaction, because my recorder was sitting on the couch when we were outside. So we heard, I got to listen to your conversation and everything you were doing in there while we were outside on the way home.
I think the most interesting thing is when we started, apparently something didn't like me there. And that seemed to be kind of a running theme. And I think the most interesting thing was when we kind of did the countdown of, going through every single person there. Is there someone here you do not like? And name them one after the other. And it was like no hits on anything. And then as soon as I said, is it me you don't like? Everything lit up. Like everything. Like it wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just like, a flashlight or the tripwire. It was everything went up. It pegged the K2 meters. It lit up the entire length of the tripwire, which really didn't happen the rest of that night from what I saw. It was just like little spots in the tripwire. And it was like, okay, well, you want me out of here. So I ended up walking outside. And at one point I was holding in my hand, I brought my SP7 with me. So as I was walking out, I turned on my SP7 before I got outside. And all I hear is goodbye on the SP7. So I think that was probably the most interesting thing. I mean, there was a couple of things that we seem to have caught. Chad, I'd upload those to Dropbox for Chad, so you can play them if you want.
Yeah, it's having a hard time hearing those. I've got some of the stuff that we got through Chris's spirit box, or his backwards box. Chris, do you want to talk about that a little bit before I start playing?
Yeah. So about the backwards box. Backwards box basically has it's a Pana box, kind of DR60, but it's the spirit box model. It's it's kind of like an SB7 or S box. It just goes to radio frequencies, AM and FM radio frequencies. It plays them as, it's regular scanning radio frequencies. However, when you get the backwards box, which is a pretty cool invention that my buddy actually showed me how to build, has all these pedals. And basically what it does is when you plug the spirit box, which is the Pana box, the one that I'm using, as soon as you plug it in, it basically plays everything in reverse. So there shouldn't be any reason for any voices. There shouldn't be any reasons for any actual words to be coming out of the actual backwards box. Everything should be in reverse. There shouldn't be any explanation for any actual voices or actual words that are coming out of it. And which was interesting. I mean, I've been testing it out for probably the past 6 investigations that I've been on. There was only one investigation that I couldn't get it to work on. That was Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Other than that, that box has worked insane. Like it's worked amazing regarding names, getting names, especially with David. When it screamed his name, it was insane. It was pretty cool actually. Names, you get voices. A lot of times when you're trying to communicate with whatever is there, it actually refers to it as a telephone or a phone, which is pretty cool. I think I have Chad. I think I sent you one of the clips where it was actually referring to it as a phone as well. I don't know, or saying hello, almost like it was answering the phone, which is pretty cool. But I mean, that's pretty much what it does. It just plays everything in reverse, so it takes away the possibility of actual radio frequencies coming through, which is neat.
Now, I'm going to say something here, Chris, just to kind of be funny about this, but I'm old, and I grew up with vinyl, and I know you can play vinyl backwards and get words out of it. So,
yes,
but
a lot of times with the responses that we've been getting have been actual responses to the questions that we've been asking, which is
so directness.
cool.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So
not calling out anything there. It's just, I'm thinking like Black Sabbath, something.
No, listen, I like thinking outside the box and trying to see if anything like that could happen.
Awesome.
Cool.
I took Chris sent me like an 8-minute clip, so I broke it up into a couple shorter clips, cut some things in and out of it. I'm going to say that I did add compression to it to take because it's very jumpy. So I added compression to it, and I did some noise reduction to take a lot of the background garble out. So all these clips had that done to it. So I didn't add anything else, but I took noise out. So, do you want me to go ahead and just start playing some of the clips, Jamie?
Yeah, let's hit it. Go.
All right.
Please.
So these first several clips are all going to be the group in the living room. People wandered in and out as they went off to investigate in different areas. The house is small, so there is a lot of noise pollution between areas. So I'll just preface everything with that. In this first clip, you'll hear Tim ask, "Who doesn't want me in the room?" And then, see what you can hear. So here we go.
The one parts.
Who didn't want me in this room? I heard something.
Yeah, it's all right. Whoa. Time to go. You know my daughter or something. Who's your daughter? Alice? Screw you.
So there's definitely things that came through there. Chris, you had a little, when you went back and listened to it, you had a better idea of some of the things that were said, right?
Yes. I think I sent them to you. I don't know their. Let me take a look here. It wasn't what I initially said about a daughter. I know something else, and it's kind of funny because going back and listening to that, I know when I said daughter, it responded back and said no, and then that's where it looked like it was getting a little agitated, and that's when I said the "f-u" word right before that, and then I said "screw you" afterwards. Let me see if I can find it here.
It sounded to me like it said, "You know my name. Time to go. You know my name."
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that was at 0125. So yeah, time to go. You know my name. I don't know if that was like in reference to like when Tim was walking out, or if it was anywhere around that time frame.
That was when I asked who doesn't want me here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's pretty. I mean, it's almost like a direct response to that as well.
So yeah.
Yeah. So it was all back to back. I think I mentioned what I thought I heard, and it says time to go. You know, or I repeated time to go. Something about my daughter, and it obviously responded back saying no, and then once again it responds back with no, sounding annoyed, and then the "f-u" and then the "screw you," which is all like consecutive from the time to go. You know my name aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, I don't know if you have the other one where it said "get out." It said that multiple times throughout the entire night.
No, that's not one that I have here. But yeah, I mean that was a repetitive theme. Just get out. So,
is that with like any investigator, or is it one of you specifically in different spaces, like consistent to one person, or just a consensus to get out?
For the remainder of the night, I think we can all agree that it just didn't like Tim there. Anytime Tim would walk in the room, all activity would stop. I think there was a one point where the whole box just completely went silent. Like there was nothing coming through.
So, everything turned off.
So yeah. Let me jump to this next one. This one again, where the group's in the living room. Chris asks how many spirits are with us, and Chris, I think now that I cleaned it up a little bit, it's a little bit clearer. So
okay.
So see what you hear.
How many spirits are here with us? I just said 11. I said 11.
So after you repeated 11 a couple of times, did you hear it say 11 with an echo on it?
Yeah, I mean, I heard it initially when I was hearing it live, and then replaying it back. I hear it, but it's almost like it's faint in the background. It's a lot more fainter than what you can hear it live. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it seems like after you said it, it seems like it confirmed it yet again, which I didn't hear before I cleaned up. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I didn't hear the confirmation before until now.
So
this is pretty cool.
So any thoughts on that, Jamie?
That's cool. So yeah, I hear it too. So I it's there. It's just like what the when we got that response, how many people were in the room? Like us. I mean, I know there weren't 11 of us there, so I'm just wondering if that's part of the head count.
At that time, I believe there was six of us in the room.
Yeah, because I think I was upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think
Wow.
that was one of the next questions that I asked, and it actually responded back with 6, but it was like very faint, and you really like playing it back, you really can't hear it, but I think we heard it there while we were there, like live.
Okay.
I think Erica actually responded back and pointed it out that she also heard it.
So the next one is again in the living room. Melissa asked, "Do you feel threatened by someone?" So.
Do you feel threatened by somebody?
Help.
No.
If there's someone here you don't like, can you say their name?
No.
So there were a couple in there. There was definitely some no's. We heard a need to breathe at one point.
Yes. Need to
Um,
breathe.
and
Is
then- go ahead.
is this also the one with the female where it sounds like it's saying like abuse at the house, and then something else responds that she's saying that no?
Yeah, that's in there as well. So there's a whole bunch of jumbled into there, but it all sort of tied into that threatened comment. So
But yeah, we seemed to be involved with something. We'd be communicating with something that wanted to communicate with the strong male presences that seemed to be either threatened by Tim or didn't want Tim in the room, and that was responding also to the motherly presence that Missy provided. And that's it, because I asked at one point whether why it was responding like that, why it was responding to myself, to Chris, to Jerry, to Tim, to Missy, and not like you or Erica when we were in the room.
it got me a new nickname, Jamie.
Oh, do tell.
Beige.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
I figured I may as well.
I forgot all about that.
It said somehow David said something about Mr. Beige there or something, and it was like everything went off, and then I said something about that when I was investigating upstairs, and everything went off again. So it was like it likes the nickname. So
Okay.
So you got to go with it sometimes.
You don't get to pick your nickname, so there you are.
Yeah. So, it's next. Moving on, in this next clip, again in the living room, Chris was talking about how the REM pods went off, and then he's like, "Oh no, I meant the K2," and then we get a response back from the backwards box. So here we go.
Those REM pods are going off like crazy. Yeah. I mean, the K2 also REM pods.
Is it K2?
That it came through to K2. Yeah.
I mean, I think that was pretty clear.
Yeah. Wow. Where are we in the house at this point? Like upstairs, downstairs, living room?
Basically, like the entire night we were
Living room.
kind of in the living room area.
Okay.
Yeah, we had devices set up upstairs, like if things would get triggered, like the Hello Welcome device
The
and
audio stuff. Okay.
and nothing. I mean, the house. You can hear anything from anywhere in the house.
You hear a mouse fart upstairs, right? I know.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't hear anything other than when somebody would go into a room and set it off, and everybody pretty much called that out, so we knew who was where.
Okay.
So yeah, Amanda thought that one was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's see the next one. Chris is going to ask if anybody knows the names of the family. and I found this one interesting. So here we go.
Do you still know the names of what were the names of all the family that was here?
What?
I heard the male said one. The female. Claire, are you here?
So yeah, I think we think we heard Clara there, who was definitely probably the main figure in this whole story. I mean, it centered around Mary, but Clara was the one who's told the story and documented most of it. But it was interesting. Like the first response right away was like, "What?" And then I heard him, or I hear him, or just it's intriguing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was listening to that with the headphones when I was going over it, I couldn't make out the Clara part, but I did. Like towards the beginning, it was trying to say my name, and then just like it was unintelligible. Like you really couldn't understand it until like now. I mean, it sounds a lot clearer.
Mm-hmm. So we have one more clip from this, and it's Melissa's asking a question about protecting the family or something like that. So let me play that one.
Everything to protect your family?
Not enough. Clara.
Yeah.
So again, Clara came up again.
It was clear.
Yep. So yeah, it was definitely, we definitely got a lot of response through that device. I'm glad we had that device because even the flashlight in the living room seemed to be sporadic. So yeah, it's
Yeah, what makes it kind of interesting is like the entire night, basically, we were trying to actually just communicate. However, that was my first time going there. I'd never been there before.
Mhm.
And what was pretty interesting was that the responses that we were getting, like while sitting all together, but it seemed like if we split up or did something else, there was like no responses whatsoever. Other than the ones you had, Chad, when you went upstairs and you started
Right.
investigating upstairs. But I don't know. It was. I don't know if it was just the night. I know some places are a little more active than other, but it just didn't seem to be that active throughout the entire night. I'll correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it was it was a neat place for sure, but
there's a part of this where there's other investigators who were there who aren't with us right now. And the time that it takes, first of all, 9:30 on a Tuesday night's past some people's bedtime, so I get it. I know some of our teammates have early, we all have day jobs, right? So some folks have to get up early.
Mhm.
And the time it takes, and we say this all the time, for every minute you have something running, it's another minute you have to review it. So the time it takes with life happening around us to get through evidence, there might be more than what we know from what we have right now, from the evidence that you guys have captured and been able to review. So I have some hope that there's more still to back up what we've already experienced. You just don't know until we get it all together.
Yep.
It may take a little bit more time.
Yeah, Jerry and Melissa did say something about they ran their binoculars outside for a little while. I don't know when they started them or when they finished, like turned them off. But there were some things that they think they saw on those. I haven't seen those files yet.
Okay,
So
good. And that's the point, right? There's more folks that were in the group than there are on this episode. So I have some hope.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's that?
No, I was going to say the cool thing is that we can come back and revisit this, at a later time as well when more evidence is revealed. So,
yep.
Yeah.
I do have one more piece of evidence from the Hinsdale House. Tony's asking what we're talking about. We're talking about evidence from the Hinsdale House and the Wildwood Sanitarium. So we've gotten most of the way through Hinsdale, Tony. So you'll get to see the Wildwood stuff. But anyway, let me play this last piece from. I was in Mary's room, I had a camera running up there and a voice recorder. I actually had 2 voice recorders. I've listened to one of them, and I caught the same bit on both devices. So let me know what you hear. But you were close to my red light that I'm talking about. Can you get closer to that red light for me? Am I being too demanding? You found the cat ball again. Yep. Now step closer to the wall towards the red light by the wall. Mm-hmm.
There's an example of the noise pollution.
Yep.
You can hear us in the background as you were sitting there.
Yep. And I was upstairs. They were downstairs. So sort of when they were talking, I don't know if you heard it, but something started singing.
Yep. I got
and
that.
You know everybody in our group, Jamie.
There aren't many singers. That's true. We don't do karaoke as a team. I thought something else is interesting there too, Chad. And right as the singing was occurring, and bear with me, I think we have to go back and look at this to be sure. But I thought there was something moved across the wall as well, like a light anomaly went up from the floorboard or the base trim up and to the right.
Yep.
I'm assuming, I know there's no ambient light out there other than the light poles that are on the property. There's no cars, no light pollution that way. I don't know if you guys caught that too.
Yeah, so that's one of the first things that I see when I was talking to Chad when Chad sent us that clip. And what's interesting is, I don't know how many of the viewers have actually gone to the Hinsdale House. The Hinsdale House actually sits in a back, but actually it's in the mountains, first of all, and it's the last house on the road, basically. There's no cars to go back there other than some random people that would want to look at the house. But other than that, for the most part, there wasn't really any cars that would drive up and down the road because the road stops there. That's the last house on the road. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, you were on the back side of the room, correct?
Correct.
So even if it was a car coming up and down the road, there still shouldn't have been any reason for that light anomaly to actually appear. Not only appear, but appear away from the window and coming up from the ground, and then have an actual directional movement to actually move to the right, as you can tell on that video, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You want me to play it again, Jamie, or
if you don't mind, we can all see it for clear. Be clear. Then it's right around the time when we hear the singing and the polluted crosstalk.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll run it again. But you were close to my red light that I'm talking about. Can you get closer to that red light for me? Am I being too demanding? You found the cat ball again. Yep. Now step closer to the wall towards the red light by the wall. Mm-hmm.
All right, Dave, what do you think of orbs?
I normally am very skeptical. I'm choosing my words wisely. I'm normally very skeptical, nice. But in this area, I know for a fact, like there's no there's no dust. There wouldn't be any particles. The only thing that you would see at the time, but they were very visible, were some bugs flying around because everybody's in and out the doors, and there's no way to keep the bugs out. I saw a couple. There's a couple of other clips with Chad, especially the ones with Chad in that room, that have some very discernible anomalies in them that I can't explain. And it's they're moving at angles, making right angle turns and stuff like that. That I have a hard time dispelling, even though I really want to. I really can't. So, it's a. I don't have to break out the bottle of pledge this time.
And just David was watching the video monitor while I was up there, so he was seeing it in real time. And and like some of the stuff I tried to go back and find what he was discussing, and the recordings are only when there's movement. It records for so long. So I haven't given up yet. So I'm going to keep looking for that, but I haven't found the ones that where I hear him talking about it in the background. So
it's a good catch.
So that's that's what we got there, Jamie, at the Hinsdale House.
Okay. I have one question, and I'll ask you guys what your thought on the property. But it's a curious question for me. So I wasn't there, and with the experience from the last trip, I recall there were some marker flags in the yard out by the pond. Has there been any discussion of what that area was explored since we were there last, and what those anomalies they found by it was a LiDAR scan, ground penetrating radar scan of that area that found shallow spots that could be anything, obviously, but the belief is that there was once potentially bodies buried in the yard from some of the nefarious activity of a previous owner way back in the day. So any feedback from that from the lead up to the investigation?
There's more flags in the yard.
Oh,
There's
even
another
more.
area that he's
Right,
He's-
the one with the mass group in it. The one near the lake or the pond that had the 3 flags that Mr. Kloss said that it was likely a kind of a group grave or a mass grave. That wasn't there the last time we were there.
So yeah, there were 2 areas now.
And they're also excavating. They're also excavating a spot out there by the pond where they had found some flooring, like what they assume is the floor of another building, and they're just starting to pull it apart. I mean, they told us we could grab shovels and excavate if we wanted to. I passed on that opportunity.
So there was I don't know if you guys know, there was at one point we're doing the backwards box actually inside of the living room. There was a name that came through that I wanted to run by you guys. Chad, I sent that to you earlier as well. Had a very weird last name. It was the first name was Francis, last name was Yen. I don't know how it's spelled, but that's how it said it when I was asking for the name. And it's very clear, like in the actual backwards box, especially when you play it back. I didn't know if you guys knew. I mean, because I don't really like knowing the history of the location prior to going there, and I really don't look at it after. But for the most part, that was one of the names that came up, and I started looking up to see maybe I could find something. I couldn't find anything relating to that specifically or specific to that area. But I don't know if you guys had any input or even knew anything about it.
Not a Francis, but I'm digging through here. There was a Father Alphonsus from the university, but it wasn't a Francis. So, yeah, Father Alphonsus is the one who came in and helped them in many ways. Try to rid things. So.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah.
I think we got a couple questions here for you guys. We got one guy they're asking, what's your favorite location that you guys have investigated before?
I think my favorite's the penitentiary, the West Virginia Penitentiary. You were on that with us too, Chris.
Yes. That's why I left Melissa behind. Now we'll get into it. Listen, I owe up to my stories.
Oh man,
I left Melissa behind there.
Mine was definitely St. Albans.
St. Albans is really cool. Yeah, that place is just crazy in itself. Like it's easy to get lost in there, and I don't know, man. It's just the vibe, the feeling, the just the atmosphere that it actually set off is neat in itself. Mm-hmm. Not including all the paranormal aspect stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Tim, what about you?
don't know. I'm kind of torn. Creston was definitely awesome. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Creston's definitely up there, and I still have a soft spot though in my heart for the Conjuring house. Like, I don't know, there's just something about it. It's a weird feel I get there. It's like it's so welcoming that it's just I want to go back there all the time.
Okay.
And then there's Whitehill. Whitehill's like my second home.
That was going to be my other one. Was Whitehill, and I definitely want to get back there. I've talked to Kyle, and I definitely want to spend some time there. And I've said, if you ever have a cancellation, let me know. I can try to pull together a team pretty quickly. So,
yeah, Whitehill's definitely interesting. I feel like Whitehill though sometimes it could be like a hit or miss. I mean, I've gone there times where I've got nothing, and I've gone there, and other times where it's been just off the hook with activity. But it's definitely a neat spot. I like Whitehill as well.
So we've got another question from Tori here, and we'll put that up, and then we want to get on to some of the stuff from Wildwood. We got about 3 clips from Wildwood, so it won't take too long. But what was your most profound paranormal experience, and did it change the way you approach the paranormal?
First of all, that's a really great question. Thank you, Tori. That makes us think for a minute, and we like that. I'll take this one first because I'm already babbling. But the first time I saw a shadow person or a shadow moving, without light source or any rational explanation, really made me realize that we're probably not alone. In all of this, because and I say this in the spiel that we give at Booby's Brewery in the opening. Like 99% of this is walking around in the dark talking to ourselves. But that's why we have recorders running, and we go back and we do evidence review, and we live for that 1% of the time when something pops in front of us, whether it's a device or something audible, whatever it is that happens. It's so rare or minimal in the big scale of this, but when you see something that you can't explain, and I've had the opportunity to see 2, and both were at the brewery, one in the basement on the way down to the catacombs, and the other on the first floor, right at the bottom of the master stairs. Both times I tried to follow where it went, and it was just gone, into a place, like it's just poof. So, it's, to me, that was my aha moment, and that's part of what drives me back every time too, is the possibility that this is going to happen again, or we're going to see something or experience something really great, whether live or after the fact. And there's, I think we all can say this: we're in the moment, and we don't capture something audibly or visibly, but we go back and watch it or hear it, and all of a sudden there's something there. That's a little chilling sometimes. Because it's right there with us, and we just didn't see or hear it in the moment. That also is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in and say there's an experience I had at Booby's Brewery that didn't happen to me, but I was there. Sort of was the profound and changed the way I look at things. Things can happen to other people and not happen to me. I think the 3 of us were there one time when someone had a very profound experience and were very shaken up, and if you didn't know any better and you didn't understand it, you might think the person was having hallucinations or on drugs or something like that. Yeah. And her friend said, no, this is not like her at all. It made me realize that somebody right next to me can be experiencing something completely different from me. And that may be me sometime having that experience, and they're not, and Jamie's not. And just, Boobies, a couple things, a couple EVPs that I've caught that just don't make any sense, things like that. So I think, those, EVPs and just witnessing other people having profound earth-shattering experiences has done it for me and changed the way I look at things. So
I think for me, it was at Crescent with Chris and Tim the last time that we were there, when I was in the cafeteria. And I ran up, because we all had issues in that spot, that same spot in the cafeteria, right? we all had experiences in that hallway right after the cafeteria,
Oh yes.
heading down to building 4, if I'm not mistaken. And when I walked in there, I had the weirdest sense of deja vu. And it was the first time I hyperventilated in a situation like that, because I'm not one that's given to real big swings of emotion when it comes to this. But when I saw those 4 doors, and I was like, I knew what was behind like door number 3 and what was behind door number 4, like, and that I had a dream about this in the past, and I was having the weirdest sense of deja vu. And then the experience as it rolled out, as I went through those double doors down that ramp, to see the dishwashing station that I vividly remembered from this dream. And I had never been to Crescent before. I had never seen anything like it before. And, the experience that I had when Sonny and I set up the equipment, and whatever we were interacting with effectively wanted to keep us separated, because she was in about 50 feet away in a kitchen area, and I was in the dishwashing area, and there was a double door that separated us. And when we would ask questions, we had the 30-foot, we had Chad's 36-foot tripwire with us. And the pod that was in the doorway, when we would ask questions, that was the one that was giving us responses. And even when I just, I saw it, and of course being, having the, okay, I have to test this. So I moved I took the REM part, the K2, and I checked for EMF interference, and there was no EMF interference. And I moved the tripwire about 8 feet, to get 2 more pods through there, and it was still the same one in the doorway, like whatever we were communicating with was standing there in that doorway between us. And it was a very emotional moment for me, because I'd never experienced anything like that before, and it was very difficult for me to grasp what was happening and try to rationalize it in my own mind.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, we had that particular spot there. Preston was insane. It was pretty active. For me, I mean, it has to go back to like one of my probably first investigations I ever did. It was like a residential case, having to deal with, being new and trying to understand and how to do investigations at that time. You tend to just go in with a closed mind. You go in thinking it's one thing, especially when the family's telling you that they're experiencing this, they're experiencing basically. I'll explain the whole situation. This person was having experiences at the house, basically thinking that it was somebody else. When we went there, we started doing an investigation based on the information that she gave us, and we weren't getting any responses whatsoever. Once we started opening up to whatever was there, we actually ended up finding out that it was actually her grandfather, not who she originally thought. So, I mean, that instance for itself, it kind of opened my horizon and actually started showing me how to actually learn from that experience and actually move forward and actually learn from that experience to actually become a better investigator, and kind of has sat with me all till this day of just doing investigations.
I would probably have to go back to the original, or one of the first times too. It was actually at the Jenny Wade house. Up until kind of like that point, I knew you could. I've heard stories about catching stuff on recorders and this, that, and everything, but it was the first time that we ever really got an EVP. And it was just mind blowing that could actually work. Because up until that point, right, it's just one of those things that you hear about, right? It's something else that everyone else talks about. But until when I finally got that first one, it was just kind of like wow, okay, so this really can happen.
It's always interesting. It's one of the, I don't know. It's almost satisfying when you actually get that EVP, or when you actually get results from what you're trying to do and what you're trying to investigate. I think it's always neat. It's definitely cool. I don't know if you guys find it satisfying as much as I do.
Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to say it. All right. Let's wrap.
Someone's like, Oh, go ahead.
Well, so let's wrap up Hinsdale. So my question every time we do one of these, we're at an event, an offsite investigation. The same question every time: haunted or not haunted? What do you guys think?
I mean, there's definitely activity there. I wouldn't say it's not haunted.
Yeah.
It's once again like one of those places, the hit or miss. That night was kind of like a miss.
Yeah, I'd say I'm going to say inconclusive at this point. Like, I'd like to go back and do another night there and see if I can get something different. With every time you go with a different group of people, you get different experiences. So, and since whatever it was didn't like Tim, we didn't have a chance.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what?
I will claim responsibility for shutting that one down.
Seriously, last time it was Sage in the fire pit. Now it's Tim. Jeez. Tim, Dave, what do you guys think?
I believe that something's there. It's hit or miss. It's definitely hit or miss. I've missed twice. I'm not going back. I won't waste another 5.5 hours driving up there for another night of sitting around for one or two thrilling moments. I've exhausted my patience with the Hinsdale House in this regard. So I'm not saying it's not active. What I'm saying is it's not active for me. So it's not worth my time to continue to go there. This was the second time, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in between. There's activity there. What it is, though, I don't know. I have a feeling that just the reaction that we seem to be getting from my presence there, that I will never know. It just doesn't want me to know unless something changes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going back 2 years to say this from my own experience, but when we were there that time as well, it was a very low key evening event that it was inconclusive. Even though there was some captured activity, there wasn't enough for me to say for sure either way. So I appreciate all of this. And this is why we go back to places, right? We've all been to places. Well, obviously we have a home in the Boobies Brewery, that we go back to every other week almost. But going to offsite locations, it's challenging at times, and unless you're close to it, proximity wise. So you never really get much. If you don't get activity that evening, you don't have anything to go off as a baseline other than that moment, and that's challenging. So I appreciate that. And it's a long drive for us to get up to Western New York. So I appreciate the candor on that, Dave, too. It's about time management and expectation management too, and budget. So
Yep.
As all of this is a budget. All right, let's move over then to the second night. So this was Friday night. We're going to move to Saturday over from Olean, New York, over to Salamanca. Sorry, I apologize to the state of New York. And the Wildwood Sanitarium. So I have never been here, and this was a first for us, I believe, as a team. Chris, were you there before? Tim, either?
Yes, I that was my second time going there.
Okay.
I was there for a tour.
Okay. But as far as investigation, okay, cool. All right. So, what do
I'll
you guys
tell
think?
It from the outside, it looked like the quintessential haunted house.
Well, we covered this last week in our
did.
episode, right?
Yeah.
I said the same thing then. And somebody commented it looks like Herman Munster should be driving around the neighborhoods or something like that. So it was Tim, yeah. And it does. I mean, and I'm killing mad. That was daylight, for a daylight picture, what that place looks like at night. It's spooky-ish. So what did you find while you were there?
Well, David and I and Andrew was sort of in and out with us throughout the night. We started in the basement. We weren't getting a lot, but we had some sort of a conversation. I was able to have some sort of a conversation with what seemed to be a daughter of one of the doctors who worked there. I think we were we narrowed it down to about 1919, 1920. She was presenting at about 10 years old at that time, I think. But again, not a whole lot of information. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. If you know, you know.
I wasn't there and I know. So
okay. Anyway, so yeah, then David, we started in the basement. Then Dave and I went up to the seance room, did a little bit of a, what am I thinking? What's the word, Dave? Halo session.
So we were doing, we had a Halo going.
Yep. Chris was.
Yep. And then we were trying to communicate with, Tim dropped off with us.
Yep.
We had a Halo session, and then we had we were trying to communicate with the was it Jeremy?
Yep.
The investigator, that was Jeremy. And then when we broke off while we were doing the Halos, I was down on the other end in that little sewing room, keeping an eye on what was going on in Timmy's room.
Yep.
And then eventually Chris came down and met us.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he live streamed from there. Not a lot there. Then the three of us, Andrew, we found Andrew again. Then Andrew, Dave, and I went up to the third floor. There's rumored to be a lot of activity that people see on the third floor. So one of the things that I accidentally discovered, because we had the tripwire running down the floor, and it was acting really funny. So I'm like, I wonder, so I tried, how we move it, Jamie, to see if it's, if there's something. Well, I laid my EDI down on the floor, and it's got an EMF detector on it. But the EMF detector on the EDI, I've very, very rarely seen trip.
Hardly ever. I agree.
I'm like, what is that noise? It was pegging the whole way up. Wow. All 4 lights or all 5 lights were lit, and it was literally screaming the alarm. I was able to trace down the center of the hallway a EMF path. So I don't know if what's being seen up there is because of the EMF, or if people are seeing things that are feeding off that EMF. It's that whole thing. So we didn't see a whole lot up there, other than the high EMF. And like I say, it was really high EMF.
Okay. Well, and everybody reacts.
Well, I did have that was my one thrilling experience there, was on the third floor, was because I had fallen asleep. Like, I was so excited, I laid down in the bed and I went to sleep. I have feelings about this place, but I laid down and I went to sleep, and it felt like somebody kicked the bottom of the bed. Andrew was standing next to the bed. Chad was out in the hallway, and the bed jerked, and I woke up. I'm like, all right, who just kicked the bed? And Andrew's like, not me.
And Andrew didn't.
In case you wanted to know, that was my highlight from wow.
Andrew didn't kick the bed because I don't have it. Like, I told you the cameras are motion sensitive. Like, if he had moved to kick the bed, it would have tripped the video. I don't have any video from that moment because I was hoping to see something moving or whatever. And so, no, Andrew definitely did not kick the bed. So,
and it's not above us to goof off with each other in an investigation either. So, you would think it would be him of all of us. So, interesting. Chris, what do you think?
Kind of the same thing with this place. Last time we went there, we had a good amount of activity. This past time we still had enough activity to where it was, interesting. But it seemed like the when you would investigate by yourself, you would get more activity than you would with a group. So it was like the smaller group that you would have to investigate with, the more activity per se. Like, I think you would get. For instance, like I broke off like while they were investigating. I think you guys went up to the third floor. We're investigating the third floor when I went to the second floor to start investigating the doll room. And while I was in that doll room, man, like I had, there was different types of obviously voices coming through the backwards box, and there were so many voices to a point where I just completely stopped the backwards box. I was like, you know what, let me start doing an EVP session. And literally, I mean, I started doing an EVP session. I got a pretty cool EVP, like while being there. I think prior to going there, I think it was Erica had some kind of experience with a kid or a child entity that was there. David had a pretty cool moment at the Dollar General or Family Dollar that we went to get the coloring books. But once we brought the coloring books,
there's
back,
picture evidence of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're out there somewhere. But when I came back, I started investigating and just doing the doll room by myself. And I think Chad, I sent that over to you.
Yeah, I didn't. I haven't gotten that one, so I can't. So you go ahead and explain it. I don't have it to play. So
yeah, so I started doing an EVP session. At one point, I asked for the name or the name of whoever's there with me, and instead of responding with a name, you actually hear what sounds to be like a child, almost like a child entity, saying Chris. It says Chris right over my voice as I was talking, and then it pauses for a minute, and it says I like. Pauses again, and it says repeats itself. It says I like your camera. And at that time, I actually had my Sony camera on the floor recording the backwards box. So I don't know, maybe at that time it was actually playing with the camera, or for whatever reason, it would have been saying that. But it just so happened to be right next to the coloring book that Erica basically had the experience and wanted to see the coloring book for.
Right. So since you're bringing up the coloring book, let me play you this one clip. It's about 1 minute and 35 seconds, but it's Erica is in the house. We're actually all at dinner. The three of us were at dinner. So Erica and Tim were in the house, and possibly Jerry and Melissa. But let me play this Ovilus segment.
Where? Him. Crayon. For me.
You want a crayon? I don't have any crayons. Do you have crayons?
Supply.
I can't supply it. I don't have it. I can ask my teammates.
Show.
Okay, I asked my friends if they could bring it. I can't show it to you because I don't have any.
Good.
I thought that was pretty
So
cool.
Especially with the objects. Usually the objects would just throw out random words, and it seems like those words are actually like, matching
content.
to what Erica is actually with what she's asking, and it was interacting, so it's pretty cool. So that's where the crayon thing came from. That's the first time I hear that.
Yeah.
I can say that in all the experience I've had with a novelist, the only other time that it's been in any context was at the Conjuring House. Dave, you remember that upstairs in the bedroom? We had a couple direct responses to questions. But usually, Chris, you're absolutely right. It's this kind of randomness of blurb. and sometimes it's enough to make sentence structure or at least some kind of continuity, but it's not always in context to the discussion that we're trying to, the tact we're taking. That is so really cool the way that all played out. It's a good catch.
So I have a piece of film I'm going to show you. When I was starting to run it, I got really excited until I realized what it was. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. I think the four of us know what it is, but we'll see what other people out there have to say.
I'm gonna go get my pledge.
I think we need it. I think we get visited by Peter Parker.
Definitely did.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's a test. What is it?
Yeah, it is a test, Amanda. What is it?
Let's see. I want to see if Amanda gets it. Let's see. Yes. She
Yes.
got it.
Congratulations, Amanda.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the bane of every investigator's review process, right? You see something like that, you get so excited, and you have to watch it again and again, and then it dawns on you what it really is, and it's like you go from having like the greatest capture ever, we're going to be famous, to it's a spider web, real quick.
Yeah. So, I got one more clip from here. This one is also from Tim and Erica. They were in the basement with Jerry and Melissa. Let me see. Erica asks a question, and then this is what we hear. So let me go ahead and play this. This one's really short.
All right, who's got the 80?
Sand. Pendant.
Everybody hear it?
I couldn't make it out.
Yeah, I didn't catch that really well. I'm sorry.
Let me play it again and see if you can pick it up.
I didn't get it there.
All right, who's got the 80?
Sand. Pendant.
So it's something right after Erica, before the obelisk.
Mm-hmm.
I can't quite catch, not with enough amplification here to catch what it
Right.
was, though.
To
There's
me,
definitely something there.
it sounds to me like there's a voice there saying Sandy, like the name Sandy, and it's very drawn out. It's very airy. We know who was there, and it's definitely not their voice.
Yes.
It wasn't Melissa, and it wasn't Erica. And then the obelisk in the background is saying pendant.
So back to Erica's, she's saying, "Where's Annie?" Is that correct? Is there a
Maybe
doll in play or something?
not down there. Amanda heard "send it," which is
That's I was kind of hearing send it as well. But hearing Sandy kind of, I mean, they both kind of go together.
right.
My thought was he heard a name that Erica says, and maybe it was correcting her with the correct name being Sandy.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what Erica was asking about. It almost sounded like Eddie, but I thought it was like
Okay.
we were joking around earlier about the Eddie piece of equipment because the
Oh, you mean EDI. Okay.
so that had come up earlier that night. So I don't know if she's asking where the Eddie is. But anyway,
Is that like an EVP recorder?
the Eddie, maybe. So. But yeah, again, this is where paranormal investigations open to interpretation because I heard one thing, Amanda heard something else, you heard this sort of the same thing. It's hard to tell. So
Yeah. Well, and that's where we all, getting together, we tend to review evidence alone, right? In the time that we have, and then we find something and we share it with each other, and then we can kind of come to a consensus for that. It really helps when you're not sure to share, Because it's the idea that many hands make light work. It's the same thing with this process. Many ears bring clarity, or many eyes, either way. So hopefully we can get this around a little bit in the group and see what we got.
So
But interesting catches.
yeah, I thought that was definitely a good catch on that one.
Not as cool as a spider web, but So guys, it's the question, haunted or not haunted.
I definitely think it's hard. I think that there's something there. Obviously, I mean, it's not extremely active, but it's there. There's no denying it, especially with. I wish we could have played the EVP. The EVP was just insane. Once again, it sounds like a little kid in the same exact room where, the whole interaction with the crayon happened.
Mm-hmm. So, again, I want to spend another investigation there. There's a couple other places in New York, in that part of New York, I'd like to get to. So, make it a long weekend and hit 3 or 4 places maybe. But I'd like to go, try to, spend more time there and get to see if I can get more interaction the more I'm there. I don't, that's the teams that have investigated there, like Jeremy, have gotten a lot of stuff, so that's where I'm at with it.
I'm up in the air. When I got there, I tried to get a feel for the place, and the place has had so much going on throughout its history. From the asylum portion, I believe it was an orphanage at one point. There was a doctor there when it was an asylum that was pioneering lobotomy research and conducting a bunch of lobotomies. And it was just, I was taken out of it. I couldn't get a really good feeling for it. And then there were certain items there. There were certain the way certain rooms were set up just really took me out of it. When it seemed to be set up to provide a mood, like to provide the feeling, like for it to be creepy. For example, I walked in. When we got up to the 3rd floor, I walked into the doctor's office, and I was like, "Oh, this is weird. This is kind of creepy." And then I was told that none of it is original. That it was just kind of set up like that. Same thing with the basement, where you have items that aren't organic to the location placed there just to provide. It seemed like it was just to provide mood. It just took me out of it. I was probably responsible for maybe a lack of the activity because I might have been blocking because I felt I felt like that, but. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and this is probably another place that I won't go back to.
Now there was, I think we kind of forgot about this little experiment we did too when you guys did the modified Gansfeld experiment. What was the name? You guys have a name for it?
The Halo.
With the Halo, yes. When we did that experiment, definitely, it kind of got creepy. There's times where I actually felt somebody touching me at certain points. At one point, I even jumped. I ended up taking the headphones out and looking around. Because I could have swore Shad was standing next to me. And he was tapping my shoulder to try to get me out of it. And he wasn't there. There was nobody else there. At one point also, it felt like almost like somebody just reached from my left-hand side and went around my back and put like their arms kind of on my shoulders to like kind of lean against, and then they just kind of like brushed it across my back as they were like pulling it out, which was also pretty cool. But then again, that experiment always brings out different things, especially things that usually may or may not be there.
Jamie, if you can imagine how into it I was, or how desperate for something that I was, I got on the Halo.
Wow. Oh.
And got nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And I had a little bit of experience like Chris. I felt like somebody was standing there. I don't know. I think it may have had something touch my arm once in the basement, maybe once upstairs. But again, it wasn't a really active night. And with the thunderstorm that had rolled through earlier, I was hoping we'd have some cool experiences. So
Yeah. All right. Well, this is I think it's kind of a push at this point. Then, the opportunity will be there to get back again. Let's see what happens if when it does, and what we can do. I would like to get there myself, and I wish I could have made it this trip, but I appreciate you guys going and coming back with some cool stuff and genuine insight. Like not sugarcoating the place, and either place. That is to me the most important part of this. Is that we're being objective. We're not fans of places. We are, we get stuff. If we don't, we don't. We're not making it up. We're not selling something that isn't real. We're there in the moment. This is what we got. Like it or not. Sometimes we don't get stuff. It's okay.
They're definitely both small group places.
Okay. I was going to ask actually first. The house is big there. Like size wise, it looks big. But is the issue with cross contamination the same? Because like White Hill looks really big until you're inside and then everything echoes. So is it the same?
I would say yes. You might be able to have somebody on the fourth floor and in the basement, but I think if you have anybody, or the third floor in the basement, but if you're second, third floor, you're going to hear. First floor, second floor, you're going to hear. It's yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. Old house. That's just normal stuff. Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, here we are. Chris, since you're our guest, is there anything you got going on that's coming up that you might want to plug or share or promote yourself, especially, and what you're up to? We're going to talk a little bit about a weekend that's coming up. Don't get me wrong, but and you feel free to dive onto that. But 2 weekends from now. But anything you're specifically up to, or anything you want to share?
Yeah, so obviously the September 2nd, the event that you guys are having, I'm going to be there with you guys, would be the Red Mill Museum. It should be pretty interesting. I've never been there. That's one of the locations that I kind of always wanted to go there. Here it is. I get to go. It's a public event. I guess people are welcome to come. There's actually, I think they have, right there. There's a link right on the bottom, I guess, for ticket sales. It'll be cool. You get to meet all these awesome gentlemen here. You'll get to meet Melissa and Jerry, and obviously Ronald Lourdes and Daryl Martin. I've never met him before. That'll be my first time as well. As far as things that I'm working, we just finished obviously filming for a docuseries. Should be coming out on ScareNetwork.tv hopefully sometime here soon. I'll be putting out the dates once we have the actual dates. As of right now, we have the trailer. If you guys haven't seen it, go take a look at it. It should be on ScareNetwork.tv on YouTube and the Facebook page. The trailers are both on there. Obviously, there's been a couple other stuff that I've been shooting for. There's been a couple more documentaries that will be coming out sometime in the near future, which are all pretty interesting. This one here, this particular one is actually going to come out soon. I'm actually pretty excited about it. It's actually a location, well, not just one location, it's multiple locations in the area where I grew up when I was younger, here in South Jersey, which it's full of mystery. I really don't want to give too much, but it's going to be awesome. I'm just excited for everybody to see it. I just can't wait. You're going to have Sean Olsen. Obviously, he's going to be on there from 28 Days Honored. You have Shane Pittman from the Holzer Files and 28 Days Honored, and along with a couple other very interesting and cool people that would be on it. Eric Connor from Epic Paranormal, he'll be on the docuseries, and there'll be more faces that you guys will recognize that'll be there. But as far as that goes, man, I can't wait for that to come out. Can't wait for you guys to see it.
You send us a link to the trailer, and we'll get that posted and share it out there for everybody.
Definitely. Let me see. I'll send it to you guys right now if I can find it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's Chris, I'm going to give you credit here. I think we've known each other for a little while, but I've always, you know, in following you and your social media outlets, you know, you are, I don't know when you sleep. All this stuff, you know, like you're just busy, you know, every weekend you're out there during the week, you know, sometimes, you know, it's good for you.
I mean, listen, it's almost like it started off as a hobby, and it's still a hobby at this point. It's just something I enjoy doing. And usually when you like what you're doing, you don't really care of
do
staying
something you
out
love,
late.
you never work a day in your life, the old adage. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
You find time for it.
Sure.
Yeah, here I'm sending you guys the link on the on our chat. I don't have access to the normal chat here.
Okay.
I posted. There's a link to the trailer. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be neat. Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for having me on. I mean, it's been fun, especially having me come out with you guys to the investigations. It was definitely fun hanging out with you guys. It was awesome. It was a good time.
Well, you know, you're always welcome as long as you don't run any of us over. So
before we end,
I had to save that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, there was one interesting thing that actually going back to Hinsdale, David. Me and David were talking about one of, I guess, the original owners, the son, on how he ended up dying and how the incident he was involved in. And on my way to, obviously, I did an investigation prior to Hinsdale, but on my way there, I ended up getting in a car accident. And the kind of creepy part about it is that it's very similar to the way that the story that David told about the I can't remember the name, David, if you can help me out on this one. With the
Oh, it was Michael's car accident.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was Michael's car accident. The where he was quoted as saying that the vehicle was not responding to him turning the wheel. And when I said that, Chris's look of recognition that instantly happened when we were sitting there. We were in the living room. You know, because you can go ahead and tell your story.
So yeah, on my way there, I mean, we're driving down the road, and this car literally is making a turn. And as it's making a turn, I watch it clear as day. I watched the poor guy trying to actually control the car, and the car was literally not responding to anything that he was doing. It was almost like my truck had a magnet, and it was pulling his car towards my truck. It's the best way to describe it. And as soon as David started telling the story, I was like, man, it's almost identical to what happened on my way here. I mean, fortunately, we were fortunate enough; nobody was injured. We were able to actually still drive and make it to the investigations. But it was another piece of, you know, what if that's even related to that, you know?
Wow.
So
Glad you're okay. We've had a couple fender benders on the way in and out of investigations. Dave can attest to this.
yeah.
It's amazing though.
Yeah.
Like the control issue is just way too parallel. All right. So I think if there's nothing else, I think we're good, you know, and we went a lot longer than we usually do, but you know, this is kind of like a double episode almost because of the two investigations and then all the review and having everybody come in. So you know, for our viewers, thanks for sticking with us all the way through. You know, and the cool thing is there's still probably, and I said this earlier, still probably more evidence that we'll have as everyone gets to finalize the review process. You know, those who weren't here and you know, there's still 3 investigators who were with us who aren't here in the room with us now. So hopefully we have more stuff to bring up later, and we will, you know, as soon as it becomes available. Ted, you want to take the outro stuff?
Sure.
On the upcoming things.
Yep. So upcoming things, we've touched on it already. The next thing is Red Mill Museum. Chris will be there leading a group. Ron and Lourdes, you know, our whole team, the JOTT-NYX New Jersey team, the Eclipse team, they'll all be there. So come out and join us. It'll be a fun evening. S'mores, I think there's going to be food, there's going to be campfire, there's going to be all sorts of things. So come out and join us for that. Our next 2 public investigations at the brewery are September 9th and September 30th. which September 30th is National Ghost Hunting Day. There's several places out there doing the world's largest ghost hunt. We're not necessarily part of that, but we do an investigation that night, and it'll be a fun evening. So come join us for that.
Yeah. Before we go, Chad, hold on a second too. I want to just remind everybody that the Red Mill is a ticketed event, and it is a limited ticket opportunity.
And I
So
think we're
there are
down to
very,
like
very few left.
Yep.
So if anyone's interested, we do need to get a ticket in advance.
Yep.
For that night.
Let's see. Our topics coming up. Red Mill Museum. Jamie's going to take that next week.
Yep. We'll go over a history and review the place in advance of the investigation that's going to come that weekend.
Yep. And then September 5th, I haven't figured out what it's going to be, but it is going to be episode number 20. So it's hard to believe we're at 20 already. So
I'm surprised we made 2. This is great.
And then let's see, we talked about Red Mill, so we're just going to jump to this, our social media. This is our social media. If you want to find Chris's, pretty much just look up Chris Mendace. You'll find his stuff. Chris and Teddy's one of his TikToks.
Great stuff.
Definitely worth checking out. So.
It'd be Teddy and Chris for TikTok.
Sorry, Teddy and Chris.
No, you're good. You're good. So it'd be Teddy and D Chris. And you'll get to see some of the places that I go to investigate, as well as when I investigate with JOTT-NYX in JOTT-NYX, New Jersey.
Yep. So
when do you sleep, dude?
Never. Live my life of Red Bull.
Follow JOTT-NYX New Jersey as well, our sister team. Check them out. So they're doing interesting things on their own. So
yep, absolutely.
I think that's it, Jamie.
Yeah. Feels David, good.
Good having you with us again. Chris, it's always great seeing you.
Absolutely.
It's always a pleasure talking to you guys, and thanks for having me on again.
You bet.
We'll see you. We'll see you soon. Don't worry.
So,
all right, see you.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Good night, everybody.
Hey, good night. Thanks for joining us.